Hey everybody, I think this is recording, so welcome. Today is my second video, although at some point I will stop counting, or I won't count at all once I start doing this more frequently. I think I'm going to try to post something once a week, so that way you have an expectation of receiving some sort of video, some sort of information, something maybe to inspire you. And today the topic I want to talk about is health and happiness. So welcome to the Joy Light Project, and thank you for being here with me, Celeste. And again, as I mentioned in my welcome, the Joy Light Project is about me trying to help bring joy and light into your life by bringing information, knowledge, inspiration, a variety of different things to help you maybe achieve something more of what you're looking to achieve in your own life, in your own balance, in your own happiness and state of joy. So today the topic is health and happiness, and I think that's a topic that will likely be a big topic all the time, where I will dive more deeply into much of the topics. So health and happiness. How do we achieve health and how do we achieve happiness? And is health and is happiness, or both of them, God-given rights, things that we should have, right? And we know through history, we know through our, Constitution, we know through a variety of things that we've experienced, that we have this expectation that we should have health and happiness in our lives. The thing that we have to realize is that they can't be bought. We can't buy happiness, and we can't buy health. So, what does that leave us with? It leaves us with finding ways and developing a life philosophy such that we are able to develop health and happiness and have that for our life on this planet, our earth walk, as many will say. So, how do we do this, right? We can't buy it. So how do we achieve it? We actually have to earn it sometimes. We have to work for it. We have to go through struggles in our life to realize what our value systems are, and sometimes change our value systems to realize that health and happiness are the prerequisites for everything else, and that everything else comes from that. So this can happen in a lot of different ways. It can happen philosophically, and I'm just going to share with you some books. So one of the things I also might think that I will do is share lots of the reading. I read all kinds of things all the time, and even review books, so we can go down that road. So for example, A Guide to the Good Life, written by William Irvine, and it is about the ancient art of Stoic joy. So why would this be relevant philosophically? Well, it is a great introduction to the reality of thinking a certain way to inspire and create certain results in our lives. And this is as ancient as, right, the ancient art of Stoic joy. It's as ancient as the ancient Greeks. So this book is something for people who are more philosophically minded, something you might want to turn to, and you can start asking questions. And it talks to developing a philosophy of life specifically, and having a philosophy of life that then drives a lot of the decisions that you make. And that philosophy of life has to encompass many different things. And I do have some notes for myself in the back. One of these things, a little question that comes up, that maybe I will spend some time in its own talk of, are you sleepwalking through life? Right? This is the type of thing that you will ask yourself. Are you just going through a bunch of motions, or are you really joyfully living every day of your life? So we have to dive into that more, and we will. Let me just see if there's any other specific thing I want to mention from here. And that would be, a recognition of different types of goals, of internal goals and external goals, right? These are just notes I had made to myself. And what does it mean to strive to be an excellent human being? That would be my takeaway. What does it mean to strive to be an excellent human being? Think about that for yourself, and then that can lead to a larger conversation, a larger dialogue that we have. So that's one approach. On a similar note, another book is called The Art of Good Living, right? That is what we need to relearn, is the art of good living. How do we learn the art of good living? And that takes into a lot of different considerations, which means our food consumption. It means our physical activity. It means our mental well-being, our emotional and physical well-being, right? All of those things come into play, our relationships, our social relationships, in the art of good living. So some of these things are a little bit dated, but many of them are quite on point. So this is by Svevo Brooks, S-V-E-V-O Brooks, and the book is actually called The Art of Good Living, Simple Steps to Regaining Health and the Joy of Life. It's a great stepping stone also, and shows us that we need to be outside, we need to get oxygen, we need to drink lots of water, we need to make good food choices, right, and not overeat. We need to be physically active. We also need to take rest. And if we don't take rest, our nervous system and our adrenal glands, and we can get into a whole scientific conversation, if we don't have exercise, if we don't have water, if we don't eat good food, if we don't have rest as well, which is very common in our society, that creates a level of stress and physiological response that is detrimental and harmful to the body. So another book to look at. After that, I will say you can look to something like Food Over Medicine, and this is by Dr. Pamela Popper, who's a PhD, ND, and a gentleman by the name of Glenn Mercer. And this book is called Food Over Medicine, The Conversation That Could Save Your Life. And there are lots of talks by Dr. Popper. I also highly recommend Dr. Colin Campbell, who's in his 80s now, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. John McDougall, and Dr. Neil Barnard. They are at the forefront of educating the public about what it really means to eat a healthy diet as a human being, what we need as human beings, what we can benefit from, how we can not only prevent disease, but also treat and reverse disease simply with changing what we put in our mouths. Type 2 diabetes can be completely reversed. Number of other conditions can be healed also, in their opinion, with large percentages of success, can be prevented, and people who are on lots and lots of medications can really take away many of them, if not most of them, if not all of them for some people. But there are protocols for each individual's needs, but it really highlights how food is healing. And I will talk about my personal story with that, because I was very ill after the birth of my first child, where I had an autoimmune condition, and it was kind of like lupus, but they called it undifferentiated diffuse connective tissue disease. And I've really pretty much completely recovered from that. My son is right now significantly older, my first child, and I have not had the symptoms. I'm not sick the way I was sick, and I pretty much did that with food. I will reference the doctor that I had worked with here locally in my vicinity, but he was also of the same generation of many of these physicians and PhDs and research scientists that have the knowledge and are really trying to share it with the public, and they're better able to do it now with social media. So if I can also promote their cause, please go check them out on YouTube. They don't know who I am, but I'm a big proponent of their work and their philosophies of food and medicine. So I highly, highly, highly recommend them, and I will talk a little more in depth about all of those things as well. And one more thing, actually no, we'll go two more, because I'm a Reiki practitioner. So interesting, the Reiki principles: just for today, do not anger; just for today, do not worry; honor your elders; make an honest living, right? Those are some of the principles of being a Reiki practitioner, but many of them are very hard, right? How to have a day without worry or anger, because those are things that we experience regularly in our day-to-day lives, and we need to take a step back and realize that's not the way for us to live, and that doesn't serve us, nor does it serve the people around us, our families, our children, our partners. the people we work with in our work environment, etc. So Reiki principles, we can spend a whole little lecture on that, or a little talk on that. So these are just introductions because I want you to see some of the things we can talk about. In my day-to-day practice, I'm very hands-on. I'm practicing Reiki, I'm talking, we're going through meditation sometimes, or I'm doing body work, specifically using Pilates as the backdrop. And so that is my next recommendation here, which is Joseph Pilates, who, yes, there was a man named Joseph Pilates who developed the Pilates method. And it is not just called Pilates, because. And he actually called it Contrology. Pilates just came about after he passed away. And it wasn't just an exercise system. It's actually a way of life. It is a philosophy about how to live our life, or at least he had a strong philosophy about how we should live our lives and the importance of physical activity and personal hygiene and the way that we maintained ourselves, etc., and its influence on our overall well-being. So this is called Return to Life Through Contrology. This is a double book. He wrote 2 books, Return to Life Through Contrology and Your Health. So obviously this was at the forefront of his mind, and they were both published in the early 1930s and early 1940s. This is a compilation of the 2. One of them has his mat exercise series and philosophy, and the other has some of his life philosophies. And essentially he talks about things like physical fitness is the first requisite of happiness. Breath is the first act of life. Civilization impairs physical fitness. We know that, right? So he tried to create his method with this ideology to help promote and support people living a joyful life. And he said, this is for the mind and the body and the spirit, because as you elevate your physical well-being, your mental well-being can also improve, and it does. And we know that through some of the other doctors talking about food, because once you start changing food and you introduce or reintroduce exercise, or you do exercise first and food, whatever way it happens, mental well-being automatically improves, which then elevates our health and happiness. But this is a choice. These are things we have to choose to do. No one can do them for us. We can't buy them. You do have to pay to do certain types of things or work with certain people, but that's to get you motivated and on your path. And a lot of the things then could be done self-sufficiently. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a talk about some of the introductory ways that we can begin to bring health and happiness to our lives, joy and light. And I am happy to talk about any single one of these things in much more detail. So I brought it up this way today, so that way I can maybe get some feedback, comments from people about the types of things you're interested in, be it philosophy, be it more nutrition-based, be it more lifestyle-based with a method like Pilates and other lifestyle things. So that's all for today. I want to keep them kind of short so I don't bore you to death until you ask me for something more, and then I can go on and on and on. So thank you so much for being with me. Again, I wish you joy and light, and have a great day. Bye-bye.